Hello everyone and welcome back to Ejima.
Yes,
I'm Nnena.
And I am Ngozi, and welcome back to our channel. We're together this time. You know, a lot of times we film separate videos, but we're going to give you guys a bunch of videos with both of us in it. So, what are we talking about today?
Today we're asking you all, why are modern women so upset / triggered by Kevin Samuels? Okay, so let me be just honest. Let me get to the point. I don't want the video to be long. I heard about Kevin Samuels for the first time when that clip went viral about Your Average at Best. When the woman that was 35, single, with a 13-year-old called in, and it was like a minute or two clip. That's the first time I ever heard about him. I did not know who he was. I never heard about him. Since then, I've been hearing about him nonstop. And I listen to podcasts, I watch videos, and so many people sub him. Like, they won't say, oh, his name, Kevin Samuels, but like, oh, like these relationship gurus out here, or these people on YouTube. But it's just so funny because it's usually always women making those little snark remarks or whatnot. So we were in the Uber, and Ngozi came to Charlotte to visit, and this guy, the Uber driver, was streaming Kevin Samuels. And he was very weird to begin with because this is the only time I've entered the Uber in my life that the person did not greet me, did not say hello or anything. And I thought that was very strange. And he was playing Kevin Samuels, and I feel like he wanted us to be triggered.
Right.
Like, he wanted us to be like upset or start arguing. And then ironically we started talking. I was like, oh, I actually don't see anything wrong with a lot of the stuff that he says. I actually don't have a problem. You know, I don't really know much about him, to be honest, but I actually don't disagree with everything that he says. And then he goes on to make some stupid remark like, oh, 80% of women are unmarriageable. Black women are unmarriageable. And I was just like,
what type of women are you around? That's our number one question, because he was, and I think that also ties into, you know, I think a big part of Kevin Samuels' audience is that when I hear some of these things, or when I watch some of his stuff, we have to do a lot of research for this video, and I just feel like his target is, he's not targeting all black women. He's not even targeting all black people, period. He's targeting the modern woman. He's targeting a women who have a certain set of ideologies, right? So the guy the Uber driver, like, what do you mean? Like, what type of women do y'all be around? Like, y'all be in the hood? Like, y'all be dealing with some, like, rough women? Because I just feel like the things he was trying to say and how the women he's dealt with, how they think or what they want, I'm just like, the women I'm around don't think that way. And then he dropped us off, and I'm like, you know what, honestly, his mentality, we were like, you have to look at it both ways too. Are a lot of black men marriageable, if you're thinking about it in terms of the way they think, or do they even care for marriage? And at the same time, basically we ended up the conversation like, we don't really blame the men who don't care, black men who don't care for marriage, because there's no incentive. A lot of them believe there's no incentive based on the women they're around, who are basically giving them everything married people get without the title. So it was just very interesting just hearing him speak, and you know, and then because we were like, you know, like, do you think you're a high value man? Like, we was going, he's like, no, I know the argument he was making is that most men know that they are not high value. They know they're very average or below average. Yeah, he said he's not.
Uber, yeah, no offense.
Yeah, he was like, I'm not a high value man, but then, you know, just listening to a lot of stuff recently from KS is like, the average, according to his argument, is that a lot of these average women don't want an average man, right? So it's like they look at going for an average man as settling. But according to a lot of things Kevin Samuels says, that even an average man is a catch. It's a man, you know what I mean? But they look at it like, oh, if he's not making 6 figures, which is a big thing that's messing up everyone's head, because we talk about this, you know, this whole 6-figure thing, it's taken out of proportion. You do not need to make 6 figures to live a comfortable life. You really, really don't. It's nice, you know. If you're nice, if you can, because a lot of people I talk about 6 figures, they talk about 101,000, 102, 110, 115. You're not making 500,000.
Right.
You're not making 700K. You're not even making 200K.
Right.
You know, so most people are screaming about 6 figures. They're making in the low end. They just hitting the 6-figure mark, and you can make 90 something, live the same life. You can make 85 and live the same type of life, basically, if you're at that lower 100K end. But the reality is that because we've been hearing 6 figures so much, psychologically, we think everyone makes 6 figures.
We think it's easier to make it than what it really is.
It's easier than or we think that more people make it than what they really do. So KS throws out the whole 9% of men. So I did my own research. How many percent of people really make 6 figures? And of course, it came out to about 9% of the population. This includes men and women.
That's crazy.
So I feel like sometimes, especially when you're coming from a middle class background and you've been privileged, I've been privileged, and because you've been privileged, being privileged is not a bad thing. I don't know why black people sometimes feel as if
they don't want to be privileged. It's almost like if you didn't grow up in
Struggle-
poverty,
struggle
there's like the struggle
Olympics.
culture. Like, oh, I struggled more than you. Like,
I
no,
have less
we
than
grew
you.
up. Privilege is not rich, right? I didn't grow up rich at all. I grew up with a
just
single
middle
mother,
class.
right? Like
It's-
middle class.
it's comfort.
But when you grow up with privilege and you're around people that are doing well, your perception of reality becomes very skewed.
Very authoritative.
So if you're around everyone that's a pharmacist and a nurse and a medical doctor and a physician assistant, especially when you grow up with people in healthcare, because let's be real, a lot of the higher paying jobs are in healthcare.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed, not entrepreneurship,
yeah.
not real estate, not a lot of those, but a lot of jobs where you can guarantee a reasonable salary are located in the healthcare field. Right? So when you're around all those people, you start thinking, oh, everyone makes that. It's not a big deal if I want a man that
And, then
makes
we had
$150.
and that's why women call in saying they want a man that makes $500,000, and he's asking them how many men make that of all races, and they're confused because they don't really understand how like wild that is. Like, I want a man that makes $1 million. That's nice, but like if you're really using that as a real criteria in dating, like, and then 1% of the men make that salary, do you know how many people you're cutting off?
Right.
Like, it's not realistic.
And so I think back to the question, why are modern women upset with Kevin Samuels? I think they're upset with him. I think part of it's his delivery. Like, even though I may agree with some of the stuff that he says, I think he can be very condescending and he can be very harsh. And the reality is that nobody likes the truth, especially when you give them the truth in such a harsh manner. You get what I'm saying? Like, you could want to tell me something, but there's a way that you go about saying it. He's very blunt. He's very direct. You know, and it just sometimes, you know,
people are sensitive.
It's sensitive, so it could be kind of mean. Like, you know, the viral video, I watched it from beginning to the end. And that video, I felt like he was really being mean to her because she had called in on the wrong day. So he basically felt like she was
what's the name of what the day was? A difference or
something? It was
disagreement
day. And she called in for advice. So I basically felt like he felt like she disrespected his time, right, and not trying to pay him what he's worth. You know, like, basically whatever. So from the beginning, he was being rude to her. Like, that's just the truth. Beginning, he was being kind of mean to her. You know, and you know, I feel as if, you know, the delivery may not be the best, but at the end of the day, the truth always hurts. No matter how you say it, no matter how you deliver it.
And I think that you said the number one part, delivery. The second part, I think, what really hits a lot of women is the accountability factor. Kevin Samuels is really big on accountability for both people. One of his first videos that went big that I had to retract, he was ripping this guy. Like, you need to go to the gym. You need to make real money. You're not saying you're a rapper with a studio. That's not a real job. You need to go make real money. You need to lose weight, and you need to get your life together because no serious girl's gonna want you. The girls you want don't want you because you don't have nothing to give them. Like, he throws it out both ways. The issue is that, you know,
his target audience
is the women, because the women are the ones, like, the point he makes that the women are the one complaining. For the most part, the men, they accept their reality. You know, they have their options, whether they choose to go to different countries, they date different types of women. They've accepted, most men have accepted and come to terms with the reality. It's the women usually who are complaining about where the situation is, about where their life is. So I think that what makes people feel uncomfortable is that he calls them out. He makes you have to kind of be accountable, and you know, a lot.
And admit your flaws, and admit where you went wrong. Like, a lot of women always complain about, oh, these men out here, but then you have 4 kids with him.
So what are you?
Like, oh, this man is so useless, but you got pregnant by him.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's like, where do we as women
take accountability for the situations we're in,
or why we're
single,
dating, or why we're not getting the results we want, or why we're not prospering the way we want to prosper, instead of just playing the, oh, let's blame it on all men and shit.
And then one of the most recent ones that went viral is the one where he's talking to like a panel of non-black women, and a lot of people are happy about that because, you know, people started taking it personal, like it's like a black woman thing. And he was talking to that girl and she was like saying some wild stuff, and you know, basically the way he spoke with her, a lot of people are like, wow, it's not like he's attacking black women. His biggest issue is the modern woman. That's who the modern woman doesn't have a color. She doesn't have a race. She doesn't have an ethnicity. It's just to me, it's the opposite of traditional. That's what he really emphasizes on, as the modern woman. The modern woman.
And another thing, I think, why are women upset with Kevin Samuels is that he makes it clear that a lot of the things we've been told that men want don't really matter. And it makes them get upset because, like, oh, you mean my PhD doesn't matter? You mean the fact that I make $150 doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter. Emphasize, it doesn't matter to
the type of man that you want.
Exactly.
Because it does matter. It does matter. And it's for yourself. It shouldn't be even for a man. But the reality is that he makes it clear. That's his point of view. His point of view is not 100% accurate. But to him, a man that's making a certain type of money doesn't care that you're highly educated. You see a lot of these men be here with secretaries.
Right.
And you be like, huh? Like, how do they get these type of men? And I'm smart, I'm intellectual, and I do my chakras, and I do this, and I do that. How does she? I meditate, I fast and pray. How does she get a man like that? It will shock you these days. And you know what I mean? Or a lot of women are told, oh, go to school. We talk about this all the time. Go to school, don't worry about men will come. Focus on your career, you know, all this stuff don't matter. And it's kind of a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie, because how many, if anything, of all the women I know, the women that end up having the most, not the most, but deal with sometimes the kind of most sketchy men or in the weird relationship are some of the most successful women. Mm-hmm. They're successful, they make good money, they're educated, they have the degrees, they have all of that, but that doesn't equate a good man. Right. It doesn't equate a good man. You know what I mean? It doesn't equate. Who cares? Like, end of the day, like, who really even cares? You know what I mean? Those are things that you do more for yourself. You know, but like, don't. Yeah. But just because you had like the woman that went, the video that went viral, this woman made 6 figures. Mm-hmm. This woman made 6 figures that called in. That was 35 with the 13-year-old, the pet grooming business. Mm-hmm. She made 6 figures, and at the end of the day, it's almost like he was telling her like, that's irrelevant because you have so many other things that basically cancel that out. Another reason I think a lot of women are upset with Kevin Samuels is that he likes to talk about age a lot, right? This whole danger zone thing.
And
it's funny because we laugh at it because we just think everything is funny, right? But for a woman, a lot of women are going to take that very personal. Like, how dare you say I'm in the danger zone? Mm-hmm. How dare you put, how dare you categorize me by my biological clock? Or how dare you put that pressure on me? But in reality is that these are facts.
And that's another emphasis is that Kevin Samuels, for the most part, he lives in reality. That's what he emphasizes in his videos. He's living in reality. And he said, we literally use this term a lot of times. He has said it several times. He believes black women are delusional. And in terms of, because when you factor in these things like age, weight.
Do you want children?
Do you want children? How do you look? People think it's being vain. You know, some people think, oh, those things don't matter. But in reality, they do. There's a reason why you dress up and you look nice on an interview. There's a reason why you, on your first date, you look a certain type of way. There's a reason why, like, if we sit here and say looks don't matter, we're lying to ourselves. They do. They're very important. If we sit here and say weight doesn't matter, we're lying to yourself. It does. I've been almost 300 pounds. I know the type of men I was attracting at 300 versus 200. Very different. I know that I'm not going to...
When you're bigger, you get worse quality.
Yes, of course. Yeah, not to say I wasn't getting guys, but I even think more guys were trying to talk to me then, honestly. But it wasn't the quality of men I wanted. So if we sit here and say age doesn't matter, we sit here and say weight doesn't matter. We sit here and say that looks doesn't matter. We're not living in reality. That kids doesn't matter. He used the term sharing your womb previously. I never heard that. His language is very interesting. But if we sit here and act like those things don't matter, then we are being delusional, because they do. They matter a lot to the average person, even not even anyone who's making a certain salary. They matter a lot.
And I know a lot of women, like, we get so much pressure, right? People are supposed to be educated, supposed to be perfect, supposed to look good, we're supposed to be this, supposed to be that. So it's just sometimes it's just too much, and I get it, you know, because I'm a modern day woman, you know, I'm a feminist, I'm all of that. But I feel like people need to stop thinking that because you're that means you can't live in reality. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you can't be, like, you can't open your eyes and take things for what they are. Like, that doesn't mean that you're like, well, you know, because at the end of the day, especially for the women that want children, I think that's the biggest factor when a lot of women he's addressing. Do you want kids? Do you want kids?
Do you want to work after having your first child?
Do you want to work after, do you want to work after having your first child to pay all the bills? I don't know what is his problem. He's off the hook. But just like, you know, these are things that people don't ask themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes you're thinking like, oh, it's just this or it's just that. Like, do you want to be the woman that has to get up a month after childbirth and go work again, or 2 months because you guys actually need the money? You know what I mean? Like, these are like real life topics.
And I think that that's the reason why, you know, a lot of people, especially in our communities, are struggling the way they are. He mentions his aunt who, you know, thought she didn't want to be combative with men her whole life, and now she's looking for people to help her. And he's like, you know what, like, that's not my issue. It's like these things you're thinking about now in the present, but you have to think about your future. You have to think about, okay, another one I watched, he talked a lot about the whole idea of how much money the average woman has, just black people in general have, when it comes down to retirement. And I feel like sometimes people forget how important a union is in terms of marriage, especially when it comes down to finances. Like, a lot of people cannot afford to be single.
Is expensive.
Being single is a luxury. Like, legit, like, he emphasized on making it. I grew up with a single mother, and she had to work a lot to make a certain salary so she could be comfortable. If she was working one job, or she was working a certain type of job, she cannot afford to do things she's able to do for herself. And that's the reality of living in a a one income household as being a single person. If you decide, marriage is not for everybody. It's not. If you decide you want to be by yourself, it's not a do or die, but you have to make sure that you set yourself up, you have your investments, you make a certain salary, you go towards a certain trajectory, so when you're 70 years old, you can retire. You're not 7, 8 breaks my heart when I see grown people who are in their 70s still working.
Maybe
not because they want to.
Not just single
Not
people.
because they want to. I'm saying because they have to. Because they don't have enough. They weren't thinking about retirement when they were 30, 40, 50. They weren't. Social Security's gone. And all these things are gone. Like, we really have to make a conscious effort. So when you brought up that point, I'm like, wow, this is a very interesting point in terms of how much money. And I think that's the thing. He's pushing people to think deeper, right? And a lot of times we think very superficial. Like, I want a guy with a 6-pack for what? Like, is he gonna go model with that 6-pack and make money for you guys? Like, I want a guy who's tall for what? Is he gonna use that height and go play NBA and make millions for you guys? Like, the things you want from a guy, that's great, that's cool, but it's like, what is that really doing for you in the long run? How is that benefiting your life? What is that doing for you and your family? Is it just strictly superficial? Or is it, like, really beneficial? Because there's things you may want in a partner. Like, I always would say, my mother gets upset when I say it. I'd be like, I want a guy who makes I don't even know sound rights, but I want to be able to not work when my children are very young. Like, let's say they're at least 1 year old. Like, I don't want to have to put a 1-year-old in daycare. And people may think that's thinking too far, but no, it's not. Because even if you date someone, even if you're married to someone who doesn't make that much, that's fine. But you as a woman know you have to save a certain amount of money while you're working before you have children to be able to fund your life for that 1-2 years that you don't plan on working full time. So, all these things are planning. And I think that's the issue. People who fail to plan to fail, right? You have to have a plan. Doesn't mean it's going to work. Doesn't mean it's going to be 100%. Yeah, but it's like you have to have an idea of what you're going to do, what you're going to, what you have to be strategic with this thing. And a lot of times we're leaving dating and love and partnership to just happenstance. And we're not being strategic enough. And as a result, we're suffering.
And I think another reason why modern women are mad at Kevin Samuels is that he brings a lot of statistics and he actually knows about science a bit. And I think that's something that can be very triggering for women. It's like, are you policing our bodies, right? Because he brings it up a lot, that after 35, you're in high-risk pregnancy. He brings up a lot. And, especially for some, I don't know his background. I don't know if he's in the healthcare field. I don't think so. But it's almost something like he brings that to your attention. Like, danger zone. Like I mentioned, danger zone, high-risk pregnancy. Things that I think a lot of people may know to an extent, but I think it's almost becoming like new knowledge, because we're becoming so advanced.
We don't really talk about a lot of those things.
Yeah, before we didn't really address infertility and things like that, but now it's like you go on YouTube and everyone's talking about their IVF story, or everyone's talking about, how to get pregnant fast, or how to do this. We're realizing that some of the choices the people older than us made, that we're seeing the good and the bad parts of it. You know what I mean? So, like, we are more informed of society, so we don't want to make some of those mistakes that we've seen our parents make, or what's the generation above us? Because we're millennials. Gen X?
No, they're baby boomers.
No, that's like people in their 40s right now that weren't born in... I forget. But we don't want to do some of the things that they did. We don't want to not think enough and just think a man appears on our doorstep, then we're 45 saying, I wish I would have known better. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of want to make better decisions. So, I think that's part of... I think that's another reason why, because sometimes you don't want to think too much. I've always been a realist, and that's part of why a lot of people sometimes feel like, you're being negative. I'm not being negative. I'm being realistic. I know what's out here.
Pessimistic, optimistic, and realistic.
Listen, y'all, I know what's out here. Ain't nothing in the streets. I'm gonna be real. I always tell people around me, I'm gonna probably end up with a short man to my breast. I'm probably gonna end up with a basic. It may sound like I'm negative. I'm not speaking positive stuff in the atmosphere, but it's hard. Like, it is what it is.
It is.
I don't see the people around me marrying anyone special.
Right.
I don't know no one around me who got married to some guy that put her in this, that changed her life, and who is doing. All the women around me, they working. They making more than even their husbands. They're working. I don't see these fairy tales I think other women see, because I'm not looking at celebrities. They're not real people. They live a whole nother life. They have access to so many resources the average person will never have access to. I know what's out here, and sometimes I just be like, I feel like the older you get, almost, I see where some women are coming from. You just feel like you don't want to settle. Right, I waited this long. I waited this long.
What are you considering settling? Because a lot of women
settling
think
is
dating an average man. That's not settling.
That's
because you're average,
right?
So it's like, well, how are you settling dating a man making $70K? That's not settling. How many people make $70K?
Right.
How are you settling dating an average work guy with a bachelor's degree or a man, a traffic controller? Figure out they're making $60K. That's what I'm saying, but they only have associates. So for the women who are so hell bent on a man being an extra professional, and how are you settling dating these men when you're average and they're average? So how is that settling?
So are you average?
I'm not. I mean, I think those things become very. It's nuanced because like, what you mean average? Is it looks? Is it academics? Is it in salary? You know what I mean? What are you saying average?
Because the reality is that a lot of these women don't think they're average.
But what are they? But
that's the point of saying
they don't think they're average. What are they using? Then what are they using to base where they're placing themselves?
Their looks, their education, how much money they make. If they own a house, if they own a car, like basically their accomplishments and their looks. Mm-hmm. But like you're saying average guy, but to them, they're not average. It's hard to say that you're average. Who wants to say that they're average? Who wants to rate themselves a 5 out of a 10?
No 7.
Or a 6 out of 10?
No 7.
Like, who wants to rate themselves a 5 or a 6? I know I'm not rating myself no 5 or 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not a 10. Okay, I'll give myself like an 8.
Beyonce's an 8, remember?
That's true. Kelly Rowland's a 9.
And Rihanna's a 10. Yeah.
But I don't know. I just think that
as I said, it's difficult because that takes time for you to sit and reflect and accept
people
reality.
Don't want to reflect,
and that's the part. It's hard to really sit there and be like, what do I rate myself?
Only thing I could say is that none of us have children, right? But I don't look down on women that have children and that I don't, right? Because end of the day, having children just takes one sexual encounter. Unless you're a virgin, you're the only person that should be looking down on people with children, right? Because you didn't do anything that those people didn't do. Mm-hmm. The only difference that I have a friend who has a son, and she's the one that sent me that viral video with that woman. Wow. And I told her that I do believe that once you have a child, you do need to lower your standards. Because if I'm here lowering my standards, I don't have a child. You have something already against you.
Baggage.
That's the truth. And like, it's not being negative. It's not me saying that you're a bad person or you're evil or you should want a man that makes $5 a day. Mm. But the point I'm saying, I think that if you already have a child and you're trying to have the same things you want as a woman with no children, I feel like it's not realistic. Yeah. It is not, because
you're not living in reality.
You're not living in reality, because even us women with no kids are struggling to find someone decent.
Lordy Lord.
Even us with no children are struggling to find a reasonable man. You can't say you have a child now. He gotta be 6 foot, 6'2". He gotta make 101. He gotta have a 6-pack. Mm-hmm. He gotta be this. He gotta be that.
When I hear somebody say, I'm just like, I'm not picky enough, because I know what I've dealt with. I need to be pickier. If these women are saying these things, I should be like...
You have a whole child you're gonna bring into a marriage that he's gonna have to take care of. Mm-hmm. Like, that is a huge expectation of another human being who did not help you create this child. Right. Like, that is huge. I don't think there's anything wrong with a woman or a man who doesn't want someone that has a child. Right. Sex is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Nothing is wrong if I say I don't want a man that has kids. Mm-hmm. And nothing is wrong with a man says he don't want me to have kids. Mm-hmm. But let's be fair that most women are going to overlook having a man having a child versus men overlooking a woman that has a child. It is just an unfair world. It is reality. So I feel like when a woman has a child, she's a primary caretaker, and that child's gonna move into the house.
When a man can have a child, he's gonna be with his mom, right, or her mom,
right.
So it doesn't affect the man as much. That's to say that he does not contribute, he still has to pay money, he still has to take care of his child.
Every other weekend, once a month. Some of these men see their kids twice a year.
He's not as attached to that child in terms of responsibility wise, because he's not the one taking care of the child day to day,
right, versus
the mom.
But you, as a woman that's gonna live with this child and then bring the child into a house with another man, and he's basically gonna have to be that child's father. That is a huge, huge thing to ask of another human being. So I feel like if you have a child, you have to be very reasonable. And I'm not.
Doesn't mean you deserve to be beaten.
Doesn't mean that you deserve to be treated bad. It doesn't mean that you deserve to take anything. Listen, people like to misquote things. People get triggered and make up stories. What I am saying is that you have to be realistic, because you are already at a disadvantage. And that is the truth. Same way me being 6'1" or 6'2", I'm at a disadvantage. You know why? Because I am taller than the average man. I am taller than the average man.
You're at a disadvantage if you want to only date men taller than you.
Exactly. If I want my man to be taller than me, I'm at a disadvantage. Because the average man is not even my height. Average man is what? Someone put a stat for me, but I could tell you from my eyes. The average man is 5'10". 5'11" most. On a good day. With his ACGs on. With his boots on.
With his shoes with a little
Italian shoes. Right. The average man is 5'11" max. Right. I am 6'1". This is with flats. 6'1.5". I'm probably even 6'2". I can't go around saying, oh, I can only date men taller than me. And then I'm going to sit here at 35 saying, where are the men? Right. Do you know how many men of the population I have taken up? My preference is a man taller than me. Don't get it twisted. Right. But the average guy I deal with is not taller than me.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate, but it's reality. So you guys just let us know. Why do you think that modern women are upset/triggered with Kevin Samuels?
But all of them aren't, right? But the ones who are. Because a lot of them really...
Because they be calling the show asking for advice.
Some of them leave, thank you so much, you've changed my life. They're happy, you know. The one who posted
most
something
time
about...
I feel like most of the time it's argumentative. Like, they're like... I feel like they call in, but they don't agree with him. You know what I mean?
They're just trying to get their second... What do you mean, the minutes of fame? Or they're just trying to hear?
I think they call in, obviously. I think they want advice. Maybe some of them are trolls.
They don't be trying to listen to it, though. That's the issue, But let us know let us know how you feel. Why is the modern woman...
Some modern
women... Why are they upset with Kevin Samuels? Like, what is it about? Like, you know, we mentioned his delivery, accountability, you know, his facts, the nature of his advice, the things he says, you know, things of that nature. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. Ejima, Ngozi, Nnena, and we'll see you in our next video.
Bye.